This month we're going to work on a duet arrangement that you can play on your own too of Linus and Lucy by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. This was voted on over at my Patreon page where you can find a link to the tab down below. This is a really fun song to play and it's not too difficult. It's actually really approachable, especially the first part. And as I mentioned, it makes a great duet. You'll notice we're going to learn 2 ukulele parts, but we'll talk a little bit at the end of the lesson of how you can kind of combine them to play them solo as well. But super fun song. Always reminds me of the holidays. Growing up, we'd go to my grandparents' house for Christmas Eve and my grandmother would play out of this book. And so this song and Skating and all the other classics by Vince Guaraldi really make me think of this time of year. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Also, my brother played this song non-stop growing up, and so it took a while before I wasn't sick of it, but let's go and dive into the first part, which is this part here, which honestly, if that's all you learn, it's a pretty good time, right? So this is the first ukulele part, and you'll notice this is going to be the top part as we go through the tab. And so it looks something like this for the first 4 measures. So what you're going to start here is you're going to start with 3-finger picking, meaning you're going to take your thumb, place it on the C string, your index finger place it on the E string, and your middle finger is going to go there on the A. And each finger is going to be stationed on each string as we go through this tutorial. Now, this is compatible with both high G and low G ukuleles. So it doesn't matter what tuning you're playing. Heck, you could even be playing on a baritone and it will work. It just might be a little different key. But let's go ahead and look at what we do now with the fretting hand. We're going to take our middle and ring fingers. We're going to place the 3rd fret here with our middle finger on the E string, 3rd fret. And then we're going to take our ring finger, place on the A string, 3rd fret. Now, I use these 2 fingers because it's most comfortable for me. If you are more comfortable using like your index and middle, that's totally fine. As long as you use 2 fingers here, because we're going to need to be able to take one off. So we're going to be fretting the 3 on the E and the A string. And to start, we're going to play open on the C, 3 on the E, 3 on the A, open on the C again, 3 on the E, 3 on the A. And the rhythm here is going to be 1 and 2 and 3 and, where that last 3 is held for just a little bit longer. If the counting is kind of confusing, don't worry too much about it. Worry more about listening. Right, we're having that. Now, from here, at the end of the measure, we're going to play the open C again. And this starts the next measure. You'll actually notice that this note is tied. So if you look at the tab and you see how the next note has a little parentheses over that 0, that just means that it's being held from the previous measure. So it's just continuing to be held for the sustain. And then what you're going to do is play the exact same series of notes, the E, the A, C, E, and A again. But this time, instead of playing the 3 on the C, which you're fretting there with your ring finger in this case, we're going to take that off and play the open A string. And we're going to do the same thing. So the end of the first measure is that open C, followed by 3 on the E, open on the A, open on the C, 3 on the E, open on the A. So far we have... And here's what's so cool is that's it. That's the entirety of the first, how many bars are we looking at? The first 10 bars of the song is just the same thing over and over with this first uke part, again and again. The only change is on the very first time you play it, that 0C starts at the beginning of the measure, and on every other one of these, it starts at the end of the previous measure and just rings into it. And that's what creates this really nice rhythmic feel. So this is what all of these measures should sound like, something like this. And then from here, it goes on to the next set of 4 measures, which looks something like this, measures 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you'll notice it's exactly the same. It's just carrying that C over from the previous measure, and then... exactly the same, right, as it goes through. Again, using the 3-finger picking makes this much easier. So using your thumb on the C string, index finger out here on the E string, and middle finger here on the A is really going to give you a good assignment so you feel secure with where you're playing. It's okay to take that pinky and anchor it on the ukulele if that helps you sort of keep track of where you are. But this is the best part of the song, right? And as you play through now, we go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now let's move on to 9, 10, and 11. And now it's going to get just a little bit different, going through 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we're going to start 9 the same way. It's still that same That's all exactly identical. But at the end of measure 10, going into 11, we're going to play a different chord. And this is a C minor chord. And to play this, you just take your index finger and you bar it across the 3rd fret of the C, the E, and the A strings. A tip to get a really good bar connection is make sure that you're getting right up next to that fret wire and almost like turning your finger so that you can close in. You don't want to go over. That's going to create buzzes. But if you're too much in the middle, it's really hard to push hard enough to get it. So get it right up in there like that. And here's what's cool about this. Is you're just going to hold this chord for all of the end of measure 10 through measure 11, 12 until the end of 12. It's just this chord the whole way through. And what you're going to do is the same exact picking pattern we've been doing to this point. So C, E, A, C, E, A, C, E, A, C, E, A. And then at the end of 12, it goes back to 0. We'll talk about that in just a second. So here's 9, 10, 11, and 12 should sound something like this. Now from this point, it goes on to measure 13, and it goes back to what we know. Measure 13 is back to this, which is exactly the same as what we played on measures, 3 and 4, for instance, or 5 and 6, or 7 and 8. It's the same thing over and over. And that's where you want to make sure you use 2 different fingers. So you see, I did a little bar there, and I kind of ran into a problem because I had to kind of raise it off. So that's why we use the 2 fingers. And again, it doesn't matter which 2 fingers we use, but as long as we use 2 of them, you can see that makes it easier, right? So 13 and 14, very familiar, exactly the same as what we played before. But then, as it goes to measure 15 here, things get a little bit different. So we've been playing the left-hand part of the piano. So a little trick when you're thinking of this song is it's based on a piano piece, and the piano, when it's being played as 2 different hands, it kind of makes it into 2 different instruments, right? The left hand and the right hand doing 2 different parts. This part is the left hand of the piano that's being played, and so the final part of the left hand is the part that goes like this. Now, obviously on a piano we don't strum it, but on a ukulele we can, so we're going to. So when we look at measure 15 here, the little symbols there, it's going to be a down, which is that little 3/4 of a square, and then an up, which is the V, another down, and then another up, going over 2 chords. We're going to start on an F chord, middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the G string, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E string. We're going to go down, up on this, another down on this, and then we're going to come up on a G chord. So to do that, a lot of flip-flopping is going to take place. Index finger jumps over to 2 on the C, middle finger to 2 on the A, and ring finger here on 3 of the E. We're going to do an up on that chord. So it goes like this. Now, that's a big jump going from this to this, and I would recommend just practicing it a lot and practice building the chords in different ways. So if you're playing this F chord like this and you're going to the G and you always do this, 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 try doing it the other way around. Try this finger first. Try mixing it up so that you can get comfortable in different ways. So eventually, it's intuitive to just jump to. So we're going to do that little strum, and then it's going to be a rest. Now, the other part's doing. We'll talk about how we can put those together after we learn the second part too. But it's going to do that 3 times, where it just plays that down, up at the right time. After the 3rd time it does this, which is measure 17, 18, 19, 20, you'll notice at the end of 20 now we have a repeat marker. We just go back to the beginning of the song, and we repeat it as many times as we want. Pretty cool, right? So that's the whole first A part of the song. And so let's go ahead and hear the last section there. So I'm going to start with measure 15, which is the first one of this, and do that the 3 times for the strum. So it should be something like. And then it goes back to the beginning. Makes this so cool and modular is we can kind of repeat. We'll talk about how to end it after we learn the next section. So that's ukulele 1. Let's talk about ukulele 2. For the second part, what we're going to play is we're going to be resting for the first whole part. You see the first 3 measures, nothing. And then on the 4th measure, only the very end of it, we play a C chord. We play this index finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string. And I like to use my thumb, strum through all 4 strings. Going right on to measure 5 now, We're going to play 5 on the A string. I like to use my ring finger on my fretting hand. Then 7 with my pinky. Then strum through all 4 for 0, 0, 0, 7. Then back to 5 with the ring. And 3 on the A. Going on to measure 6, we're going to go this cool kind of, it's kind of D minor-esque, kind of G7 sus-ish. We're not going to name it. It doesn't need a name. It just sounds good. It's this. And what that is 0, 2, 1, 5. This is a bit of a stretch. Middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the C string, index finger here on the 1st fret of the E, and stretch that pinky up to 5. If this feels impossible, that's okay. I promise you it's not. It's a lot like yoga for your fingers. It might take some flexibility to get those fingers into position. If you can't get them in position, you can just play the 5 on the A. That works well too. But we're going to play that, and then we're going to go back to our C chord. And with the C chord, I like to move my index up to 3 on the A. And the reason for that is what happens next is we play the C chord again. We do the same little hike up. And then this time we sit on the 7 on the A. So it's exactly the same little fretting sequence. So here's what measures 5, 6, 7, and 8 should sound like. I'm going to start though with the end of measure 4, which is that first strum of the chord, right? So it goes. And then as we go through for the next part, it's going to start with this at the end of measure 8. Now as we go on to measure 9, it's the same. All that is exactly the same as what we played before. But now it gets a little different. Much like the ukulele 1 part changed at measure 11, or just before measure 11, in this case, the last note prior, this ukulele 2 part is going to change as well. And in this case, it's actually the same thing that we did before. We're going to bar on the 3rd fret. In this case, we're going to do it across all 4 strings. The G, C, E, and A with that index finger. Same tip as before, get right up next to that fret wire. We're going to strum through all 4 strings. We're going to add our ring finger to 5 on the A. And then we're going to strum through all 4 strings again. Beautiful E flat major 7 chord there, but... And that's all there is to that, because then at the end of this measure 12, it goes back to the C chord. And then that's going to go on to measure 15, where it's going to be, or excuse me, measure 13, where it's going to play 5 on the A. And then this new chord, 0, 0, 3, 5. So your ring finger's already here on the 5 of the A. Just add your index finger to the 3 of the E and strum through it. All right. And so that kind of ends that little sequence. And so it should sound something like this. I'm going to start now playing with measure 9, going 9, 10, 11, 12, into 13, just so that you can hear it. It should sound something like... Now, from here it goes to the last part of the song. So uke 1 did the... And now with uke 2 here, we're going to play... And what this is the difference between the left and right hands on the piano. The uke 1 is the left hand, the bass line playing everything, right? And uke 2 is going to be the right hand, the more melody line and the high line. And that's why it's going to be... Now, luckily for us, this is super easy to play. Super easy. Much easier than this part. It's just going to be 3 on the E and 0 on the A, played in different sequences. So to start, we're going to take, we can use our ring finger here on the 3rd fret of the E string. We're going to play that note. And we're only going to go between our E and A string. It's going to go E and open A. So E, A, and then do that again. E, A, then do that again. E, A, then just the E. So, and that's all there is to it. Because now as we go on to measure 17, 18, 19, and 20, you'll notice it's the same thing, just done 2 more times. And it occurs while this is going, we have space, and then this occurs in the space between the parts, right? That's what makes it so cool and special. And so that's actually all that there is to it. It's just going while the other uke is playing that. And then it goes to measure 20, and just like before, it repeats back to the beginning. So that's all there is to this arrangement from the different parts, but I want to talk a little bit about how to combine them and how to look at it, and then also how to make your own ending as you're going through. So if you look at these measures that we're just looking at, 17, 18, 19, and 20, you'll notice that ukulele 1 is playing something while ukulele 2 is not now when we see them both listed at the same time. And so what we can do is we can actually play ukulele 1's part, and then when we finish ukulele 1, we play ukulele 2, and then when we finish 2, we go back to 1, and we kind of go back and forth. And that makes it sound something like this. Pretty cool, right? You can do this throughout the entire arrangement. If you're playing solo because you either don't want to play with anyone else or, hashtag pandemic, you can play the song by yourself by just trying to pick and choose what parts you want to do. So I'm going to give kind of an example of this. I'm going to start at the beginning of the song, and I'm going to play ukulele 1, and I'll let you know when I start ukulele 2, and then I'll tell you when I kind of go back and forth. Essentially what I do is I look for space in one part, and when there's space in one part, I go to the other part. And what part I choose depends on what I'm kind of in the mood for. Typically, though, I try to do the ukulele 2 part more because that's the right hand of the piano playing more of the melody. But this is kind of what it can sound like and what it can look like. So I'm going to start at the beginning, play ukulele 1. But now I'm going to go to ukulele 2. Back to ukulele 1. Back to ukulele 2. Ukulele 2 again, or 1, excuse me. I was on 2 there where I played that melody, right? Now ukulele 1. Back to ukulele 2. Back to ukulele 1. And then ukulele 1 again. Ukulele 2. And then from here it repeats and goes back through the song, right? Pretty cool. In fact, on my Patreon page, I've got a part of both of these put together. If you want to see what it looks like, check that out. But we've come to the end now, and what do, right? It just repeats. Well, to end the song, what I love to do is I like to repeat the whole thing and probably play through the whole thing twice because it adds some length and it's fun. But after I've repeated the second time, when I go all the way to the bottom here, I played... I go back to measure 1 for a third time, and I play measures 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I end the song with the very end of measure 4, where it plays that C chord in ukulele 2 and plays that just open C on ukulele 1. And then if you just sit there and let it ring, it sounds really nice for an ending of the song. And so it sounds something like this. I'm going to kind of fuse the parts a little bit together, starting here with the end of the song with this part, so that you can hear how we can end the song. So something like, that was ukulele 1 and 2, 1, 2. And you see that what I did there is I played the ukulele 1 part till the very last beat of measure 4, and then I went down to the ukulele 2 to play that C chord since it's so full. So this is a really fun exercise because if you're more of a beginner player, the end of this might be really complicated and seem difficult, but if you can just play this, how cool is that, right? So it's very modular in terms of how you can dissect it. And for people that are learning how to make their own chord melody arrangements, or if you're just interested in starting to, this is a really good little instance of picking and choosing parts because you can't really play them all at the same time. Or can you? Maybe we'll have to talk about that another time. But I hope you all have enjoyed this video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It's thanks to all of my patrons I'm able to do these, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate their support, especially through this crazy year. I'll look forward to seeing you guys next year in 2021. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and yeah, keep playing your ukulele and play some Linus and Lucy, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.